Good morning. Aubrey and I would like to talk to you this morning about leadership practices that impact safety culture, recognizing that what works best doesn't come naturally. And our focus is on what leaders can do to strengthen safety culture, to optimize safety performance. Let me just line out what we're going to be talking to you about this morning and turn it over to Aubrey to get us started. Aubrey's going to start off by talking about the role of behavior in our future. And also we'll link that to identifying some of the lessons we've learned as it relates to behavior when it comes from major incident investigations. Then I'll be sharing with you the role of leaders to validate safety of systems as opposed to auditing the compliance of employees. And we'll talk about what typically happens and what works more effectively. We heard in the opening presentation this morning about the importance of culture and how culture is habits, and we'll talk about that this morning. If we want to create strong safety cultures, we have to create a culture of candor, and in order to do that, we have to have a culture of trust. We'll talk about how we do that. We're going to use some of the tools of behavior to understand why it is we find ourselves in a firefighting reactive mode when we want to be in the proactive prevention mode. If we have an understanding of behavior, we can figure out why that continues to happen, but then we're also in a position to be able to influence and change that. So we'll leave here with some very specific recommendations, do's and don'ts, if you will, that we'd like for leadership in your organizations to exhibit that are going to help to strengthen your safety culture, strengthen your safety performance, but we'll also talk about some of the behaviors at a leadership level that should be avoided that'll get in the way of our success in doing that. At the end, we'll save time for your questions, and we'll be glad to take those at the end. So that's our roadmap for this morning. Let me turn it over to Aubrey to get us started.
Thank you, Dave. How many of you have noticed that the world is changing fast? Anybody? Is it changing too fast? I think, I forget sometimes how old I am because I'll use analogies that I think are common and people say, like, what is that? But some things that don't change. How we learn hasn't changed since the beginning of time. And as far as we can tell, it won't change in the next 100 or 200 years. We learn from our environment. Now, that's very important for safety to understand. A lot of safety people don't understand that. We learn from our environment. If the environment changes, guess what? Behavior is like apt to change unless we do some things to prevent it. I went to a place called Singularity University last February for an 8-day class, where they talk about the latest in everything, from robots to artificial intelligence to health care practices and so on. And I was telling somebody that after the first hour, I was like, wow. But every hour after that, I went, wow. I mean, the things that go on in this world are really almost too difficult to comprehend and accept what's going on. Now, there's a couple of books that you might find interesting if you want to keep up with change. One is by Ray Kurzweil, who's kind of a futurist. And his credentials are pretty impressive because he's been making predictions about what technology is going to do to our world for the last 20 years. And so far, 92% of them have come true.